Kia ora everyone, Donnalouise here and thanks for popping by. I have a new Springbok jigsaw puzzle. And what I mean by new is that back in like August of 2023, no wait, I have notes here, 2022, so just over 3 years ago, one of my first videos on the channel was from a vintage Springbok jigsaw puzzle. Absolutely loved it. Loved it. I couldn't believe the quality, how well the pieces were, the thickness, how it all stayed together. Loved it. And I've been meaning to buy a newer Springbok jigsaw puzzle to compare to that vintage one. And I finally have one. This one, the date on the box is from 2025. It's called Pop Art Pups. You know I love doggies. I looked everywhere and I cannot find an artist credited. It feels like it's a Dean Russo to me, but I don't know. It just kind of feels that way, but I don't know if they're the artists or not. But I thought, okay, this will be a cool puzzle, 1,000 pieces. Let's do it and see how I feel it compares to the vintage Springbok jigsaw puzzle. I bought this from Amazon USA, had it shipped here to New Zealand. The price was $37.87 New Zealand dollars, not including shipping. And I feel that's a really good price for a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. If I paid that for one in New Zealand, I would feel that's very affordable and reasonable here in New Zealand for a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. So as you can see, it's already assembled here on the table in front of me. So let's first jump forward to when I did a top-down view. I opened the box and I showed you what was inside. So here we go. Here's the box. It is shrink wrapped. Now what's interesting, it feels like the shrink wrap was not tight enough. Like the box is opening up, I think. But it's weird because I don't see like damage on the box, but yeah, I don't know what's gotten, it's like the lid of the box is too big for the bottom of the box. So something's not fitting perfectly correctly here. But let me take off the shrink wrap. I can't wait to do the poopies. It says, oops, rough, munch, yum. So yeah, I mean, look at that. That's, I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So here we go, shrink wrap off. Ooh, lots, oh my goodness. I don't know if you can see, there's lots of like puzzle dust. Is that puzzle? There's lots of something that has just gone all over the place. It's not bugs. It's not bugs. So the box is smaller than the vintage Springbok because this one will fit on my bookshelf, whereas the vintage Springbok didn't. This one's thicker but smaller. I think it's a nice size. Let's see, let's open it up. It could maybe be a bit smaller. Like it's maybe a bit bigger for the pieces, but I like the size of the image. Could it have been maybe more narrow? I'm not sure. Let's see what this says. Springbok puzzles. Flip over to learn how to redeem your free gift. I get a free gift. Share your finished puzzle on Facebook, Instagram, or email for a chance to receive additional Springbok perks. But there you go. Okay, so a free gift. There is some puzzle dust in the box. Look at that. Ew. Yeah, so I'm willing to bet. Oh, it's just, oh, I can see it through the bag. The bag is not resealable. That is, okay, that's a bit. Can you guys see that? I'll take a photo if you can't see that because that's a bit much. That's a bit much. Ugh. Yeah. There is, yeah. Okay, interesting. That is like puzzle dirt at this point, more than puzzle dust. Let's see. So the box just has your regular kind of information. The size, it is larger, 6170 centimeters by 76 centimeters. I hope it'll fit on my puzzle board here. The name Pop Art Pups. Pop Art Pups. Say that 10 times in a row. I don't see an artist name. It just says copyright 2025 of Allied Products Incorporated. That could be who owns Springbok now. I do not know, but I don't see an artist accredited. Let's see the pieces. Let's just quickly, oh my gosh, there's tons of crap. Lots of stuff going on the box. They promote their sorting trays. What else do they have here? They have a QR code to scan to see more puzzles. That's a good marketing. They do playing cards and puzzle glue. Wow, product warranty information. Lots of information on the box. This is a good use of marketing, and then they show other images. Oldest puzzle brand made in the USA. Oldest puzzle brand over 60 years. So it must be the oldest puzzle brand in the United States, I'm assuming. Their website, we use 18% thicker chipboard than the average puzzle. All of our puzzles are still 100% made in Kansas City, Missouri. Due to our unique die, no two puzzle pieces are alike. Okay, very, very interesting. I'm excited. I hope the quality is the same as their vintage one, but I mean, that's messy. Let's open the bag here. The bag's not resealable, but it's one of those where it's large enough to reuse the pieces, but it looks like it's covered in so much puzzle dust that I'll want to probably just bin it and use a resealable bag instead. Because, oh, can you see that? It is dirty. Ugh. Now the pieces feel, I'm trying to remember the vintage pieces. These feel nice still, but I think the vintage ones were thicker from my recollection. These feel a bit flimsier, like the thicker vintage ones were just like bricks almost. They still feel sturdy-ish. It looks like the colors pop. This is a beautiful puzzle. The colors look really nice. Of course, the piece cut is just amazing, but look at that. That's all connected. That's not even separated. So like, and it's bent. Wow, there's a lot of pieces fully connected. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. So not cut through very well. Look at that. My goodness, let's just, I could speed run this puzzle because I'd be able to put it together quite quickly. Allison and I joked about what would happen if we opened a puzzle at a competition and there would be an excessive number of pieces already connected. I said, you know, we typically get, you know, you might get 2, maybe 3 small chunks connected, but what if there was a lot? I said I would, you know, we agreed we'd call the judge over and ask for a different puzzle. The pieces do feel pretty thick, but not as thick as the vintage ones. Not super flimsy, but like a bit, they're sturdy. They're sturdy, maybe a bit more bendable than the original ones, but come on. Okay, that's a lot of connected pieces. I'm feeling a lot of that dust on my hands. The only problem comparing it to the vintage one is the vintage one was used. So I don't know if the vintage one originally came with so many pieces not cut through, but the piece cut is fun. It's lovely. They're wonky donkey pieces, and I have a feeling this puzzle is going to stay together quite well. I hope anyway. But this makes me feel like it wasn't cut very well. Is this typical? This section here, which is perfectly staying together, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. 6 pieces, and they're not coming apart. I mean, I love the fact that they stay together so well, but I think this has to do with not being cut properly. It'll be interesting to see the pieces that are not already assembled, how well they stay together. Look at that, I'm still finding more. Okay, this has got to be the puzzle with the most connected pieces I've ever had. A low shine, a low gloss, not high gloss, but definitely a shine to it. Oh my goodness. I wasn't expecting this. Great, like some of these pieces just so fun. The edges are raggedy. Like the edges are quite raggedy. And I wonder if that's why these pieces did not separate. I wonder if their die is a bit dull. Or, you know how they cut the puzzle but then separate the puzzle? It almost feels like they've been ripped. Like, had to be like ripped apart. Because all the edges, not from the top, you can't, well, see, I'll try to take photos, but all the edges are a bit raggedy. I'm going to keep that piece out because I feel I can show, hopefully in a photo, what I mean by raggedy edges. Well, there you go. Interesting. Okay. Definitely leave your comments below and let me know, is this typical of Springbok? See, like these two are connected and see they're hanging on. I love the piece shapes because they're fun and they're wonky. I love the colors. The low shine, I don't think will be too bad. You know, it's a satiny finish, not super high gloss, at least from what I can tell right now at this angle. But it just looks like, I mean, this chunk of 6 and this chunk of 5 pieces go together like that. Imagine if that came already all connected. So I'm going to dump the pieces out, and I just right now want to see how many chunks of connected pieces I can find. And like these two are still connected at the corner. I think I got a dud puzzle here. I think the die is, if this is not typical of Springbok puzzles, then I think the die is not sharp. It's not cutting the way through. And I want to try to take photos to show you what I mean by it looks like the edges are ripped, are jaggedy. There are 50 chunks of pieces connected. If I counted correctly, 50. Most of them are just 2 pieces, but this chunk has 6, this has 5, there's some with 3. And in fact, it feels like the chunks, like this big chunk and this big chunk, they connect right there. And I think there's another chunk that connects to this guy as well. But what's interesting is these 2 pieces here, oh, okay, they finally broke apart. These 2 pieces were connected on the corner. They just fell apart right there, but they don't fit nicely, like flat, like they're also bent. Things didn't go quite to plan, or as expected, I'll say. What I did at that point, I stopped filming and I actually contacted Springbok. I sent them what I thought was a nice message, told them how I really loved their vintage puzzle that I had done a few years ago, that I bought this new one. And I asked them, like, I feel this is a defective puzzle. I didn't expect so many connected pieces. I didn't expect so much puzzle dust. And the pieces, the edges all feel kind of raggedy, like they've been ripped as opposed to cut. I sent them photos and I said, you know, please let me know, is it defective or is this typical? As of filming this right now, I've not heard back from them. If I eventually hear back from them, I'll put a pinned comment below telling you what they said. Now, I do know that I bought it from Amazon USA, and if I felt it was really defective, I would probably have to go to Amazon USA for customer support, but I reached out to the manufacturer in this case because I wanted their point of view on the puzzle. The second thing I did is I put up a members post, and I was a bit vague. I just kind of said, what's your experience with newer Springbok jigsaw puzzles? Like, is there anything you want to share with me? And I have to read you this one comment. This is from Clark Kent, and he writes, based on what I have seen on Ricky's Puzzle and Book Chat. Ricky's Puzzle and Book Chat, if you want to check him out, he's a YouTube channel. I believe that's also his Instagram, who does nothing but Springbok. Okay, he must be a big Springbok puzzle fan. And he wrote in parentheses here, the Blue Moon puzzle video was especially revealing. I am less than impressed with the quality. He spends a bunch of time just breaking a new puzzle apart into pieces. And when I read that, I went, whoa. So I actually went and quickly watched one of his videos, one of the latest ones. I think the puzzle was called Cats for All Seasons or something. And yeah, he spent a lot of time breaking up pieces. The one difference was the backing on his pieces was more brown, whereas mine is more like a dark gray, bluish gray. But it looked like his puzzle was a newer one within the last, few years. The other thing Clark writes, they seem to be super shiny, so good luck on capturing good video. Also, they are random cut, so much more difficult than a grid cut like Ravensburger. I have super respect for you doing this puzzle image with so much fur. Eek. So I really appreciate my members. I often reach out to them, ask them questions, and use their feedback. Other people that commented, Danish Puzzler has a few in her stock that she hasn't done yet, but she's gonna get to them. And then GDF 2011 wrote that they remembered the New Modern Springbok had a few not cut through pieces. Who else commented? Puzzling Reed also commented that they have a few secondhand ones, but I specifically asked for new unopened ones. And they wrote that quality was pretty good, but a little disappointing compared to the vintage Springbok. Okay, so then after I saw those comments and I went to Ricky's video and I saw him breaking apart a new puzzle, I thought, perhaps this isn't defective. Perhaps this is the standard for Springbok. And that is kind of shocking to me. So my first question to you all is, would you expect so many connected pieces in a new unopened jigsaw puzzle? And what's your experience with new Springbok jigsaw puzzles? Is that how they come? Like, is that typical of their jigsaw puzzles? I do wonder, compared to the vintage one, maybe when it was first opened was the same, but after having been done repeatedly, you know, perhaps the edges of the pieces smoothed out, and obviously people separated the pieces so none were connected. So it's hard to compare to a vintage one that could have been done 10, 20 times to a new one that I just opened. But please leave your comments below and let me know your experience with new unopened Springbok jigsaw puzzles. Now, before we move on to the time lapse, just a big shout out to Peace Relax. I'm so excited. It's the end of October, and in mid-November, our collaboration puzzle, For the Love of Puzzles, will be released. I'm going to do a bunch of videos on that. I want to bring you behind the scenes, like how we developed the puzzle, what was, you know, the inspiration and the ideas that went in the puzzle, and Tanya, what she added, what she changed, our collaboration back and forth. We literally spent months and months designing this jigsaw puzzle, and I hope you love it as much as I do. So thank you, Peace Relax, for believing in me, trusting in me to make a jigsaw puzzle together. I can't wait for it to be released. I'll provide you with all the details, and their support this year has allowed me, for example, to buy specialty new brand jigsaw puzzles and bring them in and ship them in from afar, and I truly appreciate them. As well as members, your support means so much to me, and you just watching, liking, subscribing, it really does help the channel grow. It helps me out, so thank you all so very much. Let's move on to the time lapse, and now you're gonna see, it appears quick on camera, but I actually did get a vacuum and I vacuumed up all that puzzle dust. I mean, it was a lot. And I even used a brush I had to brush my table because it got into all like the little grooves and stuff. So I cleaned up my table as best as I could before I started puzzling. When I first opened the box and looked at the pieces, I didn't think the shine on the pieces bothered me that much. But by the end of the day of doing this jigsaw puzzle, I did have a slight headache from the glare and the reflection. And even now filming with my big ring light, it is shinier. Like, I don't want to say it's super glossy or high gloss, but it's a high satin finish. It is shiny, and it was tricky to get photos. Often in the evening with my lights, I can't get nice photos if the puzzle does have a shine or a gloss to it. I have to wait the next day, and I even have to like try to get rid of all the natural light. It's almost easier to take a picture in the dark and then lighten it or brighten it up post-processing. So yeah, in the end, the pieces were shinier than I liked. I actually tried to film how difficult it was to put the pieces together, but I was doing that one-handed, and so, I shake, and that made it even more difficult to assemble the jigsaw puzzle with one hand. And I'm trying to explain how this is like how did I write it here? I tried to make a note. It's like the worst best fitting puzzle I've ever had. Does that make any sense? Like, it feels, when you look at the puzzle right now, it almost feels like those pieces are solidly connected. But it was the most difficult thing to get together. My goodness, most of the pieces I had to fight for them and push down really hard and squish them together. So I thought, oh, this thing is stuck together. It's never coming apart. But then just now, getting ready to film, I moved the puzzle over from that main table area to here, and then actually it's coming apart, even just there trying to lift it up. It comes apart a lot easier than I expected. So I'm very confused. I'm very confused because it was so difficult assembling the pieces. They were so difficult to push together, but yet now it feels like I had to be so careful moving it, the pieces were coming apart. So I don't understand. I'm a bit perplexed. I don't know if it's a good fitting puzzle or a bad fitting puzzle. I definitely don't think it's a well-cut puzzle, that's for sure. But I thought for sure, look, oh my goodness. Yeah, I thought for sure it would stay together no problem. But no, this is going to come apart. Whereas that vintage Springbok puzzle, I picked that up with one hand, remember? And I was tossing it around. That thing did not come apart at all. So from that point of view, the vintage Springbok puzzle, those pieces, they held together nicely. But this, I expected this to kind of be stuck. It's not stuck. I think it's going to be easily disassembled. So that's shocking to me because I had so much difficulty pushing the pieces together in the first place. And perhaps that's indicative that they're not well connected. Now, you saw how much puzzle dust I had to clean up. I kept the pieces in the bottom of the box, and I assembled. I'm not sure if you can see on camera here. Probably there's too much shadow. There's still so much more puzzle dust on my table, still in the box. This is probably the most puzzle dust I've seen in a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle in a long, long time. And it was dirty, it was gritty. Usually puzzle dust doesn't bother me, but if I know some people who it does cause them an allergic reaction, this would be bothersome. The other thing is because it's such like a dark blue gray color, I could see it everywhere. And maybe it doesn't show up on camera, but I'm not a person who likes dust. So yeah, the first thing I'm gonna do after I'm done filming here is I need to clean up the rest of the puzzle dust because there was a lot. Now there's one thing you may not believe, but I don't lie, I'm telling you the truth here. My thumbs are sore today. I did this over the course of yesterday. I didn't speed run it. And I'm used to puzzling for hours and hours and hours. You've seen it where I've puzzled for hours in a day, every day. I love it. Have I ever complained that my fingers were sore? No. And last night when I went to bed, it felt like I could feel like a pulse, in my fingers. And they're tender and sore this morning because I had to push, and even now, I'm going to stop doing that. I just had to be a bit forceful with the pieces. Now, I know what you're going to think. Well, Donnalouise, piece relax pieces, sometimes, they take some effort to put together. Yes, but in the course of a 1,000-piece puzzle, it may be 2 or 3 pieces, and I've learned to push the piece in from the bottom. Whereas these, it was just so difficult. And I do wonder if it was made more difficult because of the wonky-donkey shapes, as opposed to if it would have been standard shape, standard grid cut rather than a random cut. But my goodness, my fingers are sore. And the other day I did 8 piece relaxed jigsaw puzzles, 3D, 2D ones. My hands were a bit tired by the end of the day, I won't lie, because that was a lot of puzzling. But not like this. Like, I'm actually sore, especially my right thumb. I think I used it a lot to push in the pieces and get them done. I had to do a lot of pushing and a lot of scrunching, like trying to get pieces together. And at times I even picked up sections, because like some sections will hold together nicely. And I found myself trying to push the sections together like that, trying to get them to connect and put it back down. That's all kind of difficult to see in a time lapse. I capture a photo, I think, once every 2 seconds with that camera, so it may not be so noticeable. But yeah, trust me, I spent a lot of time doing that. And even now, picking up this chunk, I can see a lot of light between the pieces. Oh, my thumbs hurt. I'm not gonna lie. And there's been days where I've spent 8 hours puzzling, full on, no issues, no problems. This is the first time I think, remind me, correct me if I'm wrong, have I ever commented that my fingers or my thumbs hurt after puzzling? No, I don't think I remember. So that was new to me, and I will admit my thumbs are sore today, and I have more puzzling I want to do. But yeah, that was interesting. So if I just compare this new Springbok from 2025 to that vintage one all the way. It held together beautifully. The pieces were beautiful, still wonky donkey shapes, good thickness. I don't remember how glossy or glary it was, but this doesn't hold up compared to that vintage one. And I feel in 20, 30 years time, this one won't be the same quality as that vintage one as well as it held up. Already it falls apart a lot easier. It's quite shinier. I do think though, that the more this puzzle is done, perhaps the pieces will smooth out and they won't be so raggedy, and there'll be less and less puzzle dust, and maybe the pieces will be easier to connect, and maybe after the 5 or 6 time it's been assembled, it might actually be kind of considered a loose fitting puzzle. So I don't know. I can't wait to read all your comments, but this is not what I was expecting. I promise I will update you if I hear back from Springbok. And yeah, I can't wait to read your comments. What's your opinion on new Springbok jigsaw puzzles? I'm slightly disappointed, I will admit. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all being here. Please leave your comments below and let me know what your experience is with new unopened Springbok jigsaw puzzles. Or now I'm curious to know, if you have a newer puzzle within the last 5 years that's maybe been done a couple of times, how it holds up. How the pieces, if it gets easier to assemble, but then it's looser. And then let me know your opinion compared to vintage Springbok. I do feel vintage Springbok puzzles are, I've only heard amazing things about their vintage quality. But yeah, that's me for this one. On to the next puzzle. And until then, ciao.